Dom DeMarco.
FreshandFit Moneyclips. Ready to level up your real estate game? Join Myron, Fresh, and special guest David Greene for an in-depth discussion on house hacking and cash out refi. Tune into the FreshandFit Podcast Money Monday show for expert insight. Don't miss out. Hit subscribe and watch the YouTube short pod for quick tips. Brought to you by Moneyclips. Unlock the full-length podcast experience on Rumble and YouTube. Subscribe now and dive into the world of real estate with Myron, Fresh, and David Greene. Only on the Fresh and Fit podcast.
Not a sustainable path to stay in. The relationship between law enforcement and community was really rough in the Bay Area, California, where I was working. So
what PD did you work for?
I worked for the Contra Costa County Sheriff's Association, and then I got laid off when we had the property taxes went really low from like the recession, basically in 2010. So I had to go find another department to work at because they were going to put me in court security, and I was 27 years old.
Wow.
No,
you're like, hell no.
Yeah. So the only department that was hiring was the public transit agency. So I worked for the BART police department for 8 years or so, and started buying rental property for myself. Kind of learned how to do that. I got into the BRRRR method, which we can talk about.
BRRRR, my favorite.
Yeah. Scaled up to buying about 4 or 5 properties a month doing that. And then I got my real estate license. I started a real estate team with Keller Williams. This last year, I just started a mortgage company called the One Brokerage that's exploding. We're probably the fastest growing mortgage company in the country right now. And I got affiliated with Biggerpockets hosting their podcast where we just teach people how to invest in real estate. It's all free. It's like one of the few places out there you can learn how to invest in real estate without having to spend $100,000 to have some guru teach you the game. And started writing books for them. And then that kind of just grew into being a little more, I guess influencer would probably be the word. I did a TED Talk last year, and I run a mastermind now, and little things like that are kind of being added on.
Hold on, just real quick. We glossed over what you just said. You said you used to buy 4 to 5 properties a month?
Yeah.
4 to 5 a month?
And you did that as a police officer?
Yes.
So how are you met? Can you tell us a little bit about how you did that, buying 4 to 5 properties a month as a police officer? Because I know with BART, with overtime, everything, you're probably bringing in about $100,000 a year. Because people think, oh, police officers don't make any money. You could easily make 6 figures a year, guys. Yes, it's overtime. Yes, they consider it blood money, but you can definitely make quite a bit of money in law enforcement. But how are you doing that, man?
All right, so there's the time element, like how you make time to actually do the due diligence by the properties.
And then how'd you get the capital?
Right?
Yeah. How'd you do both? Yeah.
I started off just working more overtime than maybe anyone's ever worked. I would be working 15, 20-hour days constantly, 7 days a week, all the time. I knew, like, what I know is most people, when they don't like their job, is they work less hard.
Right.
Like, I hate this job, so I'm just going to phone it in. And when the boss gives me a raise, then I'll try hard. Life does not honor that. No one's going to come along and like the coach isn't going to put you in the game because you've been lazy. And maybe if I give him some playing time, he'll play hard. You got to go earn what you're looking for. Right. So I knew if I want to get out of this, I'm just going to have to build enough income from real estate that I could make the jump into something else. So I would work a lot. I saved all my money. I rented a room from other cops. I never bought a house for myself. I had probably 9 rental properties before.
Not married, right?
Nope, not married.
Nice.
No kids.
Smart move.
A lot of the guys that would kind of watch what I was doing, they would ask, like, how do you do it? And I'm like, I don't know that you can do it. You got T-ball to go to. You have a wife to keep happy. Like, I didn't have to do anything other than accomplish that goal. So
smooth.
Save the money. And I would maybe buy like a property or 2 every year because you got to put on the properties at the time like $60,000-$70,000 down on every single property. So that was killing me. And I realized this is not. So
you were doing 2 a year in the beginning.
Yes.
So you're putting 50-60K down because you were working crazy overtime. What were you making back then?
No, we had a good setup there in the Bay Area. Yeah. So I would say I was making probably like in the $100,000 to $200,000 range.
Okay.
And the best year ever, I worked 7 days a week, 20-hour days. I slept in my car almost the whole year.
Bam.
That year I made about $300,000.
Wow. But notice the sacrifice that he gave up to get that money.
Yeah, my health took a hit. I'm still trying to recover from that. Your social life takes a hit. Your relationships. I just realized you can't run at a dead sprint your whole life. You have to hit a pace that can be measured. That's where I learned the BRRRR method.
Are brand new. And speaking about Ask Smart Advantages, we're actually giving away an Ask Smart Advantage right now.
Yes, we are actually. So funny story. I met these guys a couple months ago. I seen their business model. I seen how they operate. Very honest guys with integrity. And I was like, yo, bro, how do we get back to people that support us? You know, FreshandFit, Mercy Luxury, and we decided to do a giveaway of one of our cars. So there's a clip actually we could play if you don't mind, Bills, on the page whenever you're ready. Okay, it's the reel. Yeah, the reel. Yeah.
Guys, it's your boy Fresh from FreshandFit Podcast. Today we're giving away an Aston Martin bag. That is right. You get a free car, trip to Miami, and 10K in your pocket. Who can beat that? It's pretty simple. $2 to enter. That's it. Click the link in the bio. See you guys in there.
So okay, so you busted your ass. You were copping 2 houses a year, pretty much, putting $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 down. Was that 20% back then?
Yeah,
probably.
20%.
Okay, and then you got to a point where you're able to scale up, where you buy 4 to 5 houses a month. How did you do that?
That was the BRRRR method. It stands for buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. And it's not as complicated as what people want to make it sound like. The problem when you're trying to buy a lot of real estate is you go put a lot of money as a down payment.
Yeah.
Then you go dump a lot of money into fixing it up. And you have equity in the property. It is worth more than what you owe on the loan, but that equity is stuck in the house. You can't go use it to buy your next house. So it gives this, in my opinion, a false illusion of safety. People think that, oh, I have $200,000 of equity in that house. I'm okay if the market corrects. And just, I don't think that's a good way to look at it, because when the market corrects, there's nothing you do to stop your equity from dropping. You have no control over equity in an actual property. And furthermore, it doesn't matter if you don't have equity in a property, because it not only matters if you're going to sell it. If the market drops, you shouldn't sell your house. If it's cash flowing, you just keep it and you wait for the market to turn around. So what I realized is that instead of continuing to buy properties and spend a lot of money to fix them up, I would do that. And then they were worth significantly more than I had paid for them when it was done. I would refinance it afterwards. I could recover almost all the capital, sometimes more capital than I put in the deal. Now I got that money back. I can go buy the next house. That helped me in several ways. For one, obviously having your capital back, you can go buy another property. That's how I got to 4 or 5.
While still maintaining that property that you have.
Yeah.
And you're only pulling out 80% of the equity. So you're left with a healthy amount, 20% of equity. The property cash flows. You keep the house. It's kind of like flipping, but instead of selling it, you keep it as a rental.
Yeah.
And the other thing it allowed you to do is it actually let you get the reps in. That's another thing people don't think about. You want to be good at anything in life, you have to do it a lot.
Yeah.
Anyone who's successful, there's no martial artist that got really good at something not doing it all the time. There's no one who works out that is in really good shape without doing it all the time. You can't get good at investing in real estate, managing money, anything that your listeners like, unless you get a lot of repetition. But you can't get a lot of repetition. You got to put $80,000 down on a new property. People don't have enough money to do that.
Yeah. Right.
So the BRRRR method allowed me to get these reps in. I got better contractors. I got better at what I was doing. The agents would bring me the deals first. I had the confidence to move forward quickly because I analyzed them a lot more than the person who might need 3 or 4 days to figure out what they were going to do. I started to be the person who was like buying the majority of the best deals in that market. And that was how I grew the portfolio.
Nice.
So you start out, the first year, I'm guessing, or first 2 years, you're buying like 1 to 2 houses a year, putting down heavy down payments. You're working, crazy hours to get the capital to be able to do it. And then later on, you're like, you know what, there's got to be an easier way. You go ahead, you start doing the BRRRR method. And at this point, you're able to buy a house, snowball that in, refinance, take that money out, tax-free, of course, by the way, and then go ahead and get another house. And you were doing this 3 to 4 times a month?
That's it. Because think about the prices maybe in 2013, 14 or so.
Yeah.
I was buying in mostly northern Florida, a little bit in Arkansas, a little bit in Arizona.
Oh, so you were buying...
I was buying out of state.
You weren't buying in California?
No.
That's smart.
Okay.
No.
Now this makes a lot more sense.
I'm making California money, but I'm investing it into areas where the properties are much cheaper, and I'm kind of able to bully around some of the local buyers.
Yeah.
To them, they think that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Right? They don't have the cash, but your average deal, I could buy a fixer-upper, trash house, good bones, but look terrible, sits on the market a long time for $60,000. I just go pay cash.
Yep.
Because I don't need it. That's not a down payment anymore. I've kept it. Then I spent $30,000 to fix it up. So I've spent about $90,000 on this house. The appraisal will come in around 120. The bank's going to let me borrow 75 to 80% of the 120, which is about the 90 I put in. So I'm putting $90,000 out, and then in a couple months when the rehab's done, $90,000 is coming back in. Now I'm saving up more money. I have a couple of those $90,000 that I'm sending out, and you start to get a cycle going in where money's coming out and then it's coming back in a couple months. And in the meantime, more money's going out on the next house.
Yeah. Now for the people out there that are scared to, because I'm in a situation now where I'm actually looking at a deal right now in Texas, $1 million hotel. I'm going to probably have to put 200, and we could talk about the mortgage stuff on the side as well, since you have your mortgage company, 20 to 25%. I'm under contract right now for 2 properties. So my capital is tied up right now on these 2 deals. So I'm like, okay, I got 8 properties I can go ahead and do a cash out refinance on. So my thing is I have not done a cash out refinance yet.
Okay.
And for a lot of people, they get worried, like, fuck, if I do a cash out refinance, it's going to mess up my cash flow. Am I going to still be able to go ahead and pull the equity out while simultaneously being able to get money? And, you know, the interest rates have went up or whatever. So what are your thoughts on people that have reservations about doing cash out refinances since you've done them so much?
Well, let's talk about some of the common objections you're going to hear, right?
Please.
If you over leverage, like immediately when someone hears cash out refinance, they hear over leverage. You're going to be borrowing too much, right? Well, it doesn't matter what you owe on a property. You can have a property worth $100,000 and you could theoretically owe $150,000. If it makes you $1,000 a month, it's not a risky move.
Yeah.
You could conversely be the other way around. You could have a property worth $1 million, you only owe $200,000, but if you're bleeding $1,000 a month on it, that could hurt you.
Yeah.
So the wrong metric to look at is the percentage of equity you have in the house. The better metric to look at is it performing well? Is it cash flowing? So I just did a cash out refinance on like the first 4 properties I bought in California.
Okay.
Waited about probably 8 years or so.
Damn.
Pulled over 7 figures out of those 4 deals, like you said, was tax free.
You did them all in one cash out refinance package?
Yeah, that's one of the benefits of our loan brokerage is these guys that work for me, they work on my own deals. So now they can help the people like you trying to do the same thing that I'm doing, and they've been kind of trained in how to do that right. So pull all the money out at one time out of these 4, and my interest rate did go up. I was at like a 3.75. I think I ended up with like a 5.5 or a 6%. No one likes that. Okay.
Yeah.
But the difference of the 2% that my rate went up is significantly less than the return I got on the new properties I bought. And it's how you're looking at it, right? When you come from that, it's overused, but the scarcity mindset phrase of, I have an interest rate of 4%, I don't want to go up to 6%. You're going to lose 2% on that. But are you only going to get a less than a 2% return on what you buy? If what I'm buying is getting a 10 to 12% return,
It's worth it.
it's totally worth it, right?
Yeah.
And that's only the cash flow element. That's not considering that now, you know, I'm buying $1 million properties and my tenants are going to be paying those off and the rents are going to go up every single year. That 10% return turns into a 20% return in a couple years. So it's how you look at the pros and the cons and how you mitigate the risk that's always going to be present when you're investing in anything, including real estate.
So that's fantastic. Your company, you guys do cash out refis, you guys give loans, everything.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Damn, I'm going to you, bro.
Yeah, I'm about to, especially for this deal that I got going, that I'm looking at right now in Texas. Because, other thing I was going to say, what made you say Arkansas and Florida? I know the cost is obviously a good one, but you were buying these properties up, in the early 2010s?
At that time, probably I'd say 2010 to 2018 is when I was doing that. What you're looking for is what we call the 1% rule. So there's this metric that if a property rents for 1% of what you paid for it, it is statistically very likely to cash flow and it's worth looking into.
Can you give the people an example real quick numerically?
Absolutely. So let's say you buy a $100,000 house. 1% of that is $1,000. If it rents for $1,000 a month, it's worth looking into. It's probably going to make money. And then it kind of scales from there. $400,000 house, if it's anywhere close to $4,000 a month, it's probably going to cash flow. So I couldn't do this in California because the price to rent ratios were way too high.
Yeah.
Exactly. You're not going to make a lot of money with cash flowing properties. Right? You make money there in equity. It's a different way. But I could do that in the South. So I would find a market that had 1% properties. Arkansas, Florida, Arizona, lots of places in the Southeast. And then I would look for which of those areas have the most fixer-uppers. And then I would say, how do I build a team there? The first book I wrote was Long Distance Real Estate Investing. And I call it the Core 4. I need a contractor, an agent, a lender, and a property manager. If I have those 4 people, everything that I need, I can get it done inside that market. Nice. So then I would just keep buying, and one contractor doesn't work out, I get a better one. Property manager's cool, but then this agent over here has a better property manager. Your team slowly gets better through the draft. Every year you're drafting in new people.
Wow.
There's a lot of people that will say, oh, you don't have any money, you don't have any credit, you don't have anything going for you in life. Real estate's the magic pill that's going to save you. It's a dangerous asset class to get into if you aren't already good with money.
Yeah.
Things pop up with real estate that you cannot have anticipated. You need to have a bit of a buffer. Absolutely.
Yeah. Happened to me.
I don't think that real estate is a good way to make your money. It is a good way to grow money that you've already made. That's just my opinion. There's lots of people who look at it differently. So if you're only making $30,000-$40,000 a year and you want to buy a house, that should drive you to go find ways to make more money.
Yeah.
If you're driven enough to be listening to something like this and looking into real estate, you can make more than $30,000.
Absolutely, you can. Absolutely, you can.
Everybody who doesn't have money at work, they all talk like, well, how do you get a good job? And it's so hard out there. And everyone I know that owns a business, all we do is look for people that will be good workers.
Yeah.
It's this weird dynamic that you see.
Yeah. For you, man. So can you tell the people a little bit about your real estate portfolio? Because you're doing things on a crazy scale right now. As far as how are you procuring properties? What's your portfolio like? How many doors? How many properties, etc.?
Yeah, so the last 6-7 years, it's been very hard to get into real estate. If you got in, you did well.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the way life works. It's either easy on the front end, and then it's hard on the back end, or it's hard on the front end, it's going to be easy in the back end. There's no way around that.
Yeah.
So the interest rates were low. There's a lack of supply. The government has printed so much insane money. I don't know if you guys have had guests on to talk about that.
We have.
It needs to be talked about more.
No, please. We can talk about the inflation rates as well. We'll talk about that here in a second.
Yeah. So it makes you guys like me look really smart, because inflation is just this huge wave that's carrying me, right? You can never swim as fast as this wave will push you through in the ocean. And so it was very difficult to buy real estate. Well, when rates went up, people don't realize that real estate is just like cryptocurrency and stocks. It's more psychological than people want to admit. Like, there's a collective psychology of the whole buyer pool of any asset class, and they tend to operate like a flock of birds. They all go the same direction at the same time. Everybody's making money in something. Let's go buy a lot of it.
Yeah.
Nobody's buying. Okay, let me get out. Right. I almost always look to be counter to that. So when the market was red hot, I was still buying, but I didn't put as much of my attention into buying real estate because the return on my time would be less. There's so many people competing for that same thing. I spent more time building the companies, building the real estate team, building the mortgage company, building the mastermind. And now that interest rates have gone up and everyone's talking about this crash that they think is going to come, a lot of buyers have got cold feet. So I'm jumping in and buying a whole lot more real estate right now, right?
Yeah.
And the key is I'm buying the stuff that like the best stuff that you wouldn't have been able to even get at all. Like it would have got scooped up right away, right? I'm not chasing after the lower level properties, like starter homes that everybody wants. Like, you can buy those anytime. I'm going after the luxury stuff that's really nice. You can add a lot of equity. It's going to perform really well over a significant period of time. So
Is that A-class properties?
in general, yeah, I'd say
plus?
A-class,
B?
or even sometimes above A-class. Like, you get into like multi-million-dollar,
Really?
Yeah, like short-term rental, luxury short-term rentals. That's even more than A-class.
So, question for you, Dave, because we had a conversation with Ken McElroy a couple, I think a month ago. He was here with Robert Kiyosaki and George Gammon. And he was saying that he specifically tries to stay away from A classes because, they're expensive, and, with the recession coming, people are going to leave those A classes and go into B and C classes. The biggest thing he was looking for was schools, right? Like, good schools is where he would buy in the B class level. But you're doing something a little bit different. I mean, I haven't heard someone go purchasing A class type properties. Can you tell us a little bit about like your reasoning for doing that and the mindset for it?
Yeah, well, Ken's also referring to multifamily.
Yeah,
that's what he buys. Okay, so
yeah,
A-class multifamily would be different than A-class residential properties.
Okay,
gotcha.
Right, he's looking at A-class multifamily is the most expensive apartment you could get, like over-the-top luxury type of stuff. Okay, when times get tough, people are going to drop down to something more affordable. That's true.
Yeah.
What I'm talking about are vacation rental properties, stuff in the best neighborhood, on the water, the most incredible view. If you could take your pick of where you're going to go vacation, that's the one you're going to pick, right? It's actually a much more solid asset class to get into. And if you do see demand go down, the people at the bottom in the short-term rental space, they're the ones that are going to get hit. No one wants to go to your cookie cutter house with like tract home condo. There's a million of them. They want to go somewhere extra nice. And when demand goes down, they're all going to be like, what's the best place I can possibly get?
Right.
They can also, I can charge less per night and be okay. Whereas if you're only charging $100 a night, you have the budget option. How much more can you drop it when there's 1,000 other people also charging
for the same?
$100? Yeah. So when it's a market like this where we don't know, is it going to come down more? Is it solid? You never know. I want something different and unique that will hold its value for a long period of time. Not a tract home, big, unique lot, more space, better views, more square footage on the house, best neighborhood around, right? So like I bought a property in Malibu. I bought a property in Scottsdale, $3.5 million. That one's awesome. I'm going to be heading there actually tomorrow.
Single family home.
Yep.
Okay.
Single family home on 5 acres, but it's 6,800 square feet. It's going to rent for $2,000 a night. I'm able to use that to host retreats. We're putting something like that together right now.
Are you just like Airbnb it to people?
Yep,
like, okay,
it.
Gotcha. So you're getting these okay, now it makes sense. Yeah. You're getting the A-class properties, but you're Airbnb in them. You're not putting long-term tenants in them.
No, that's exactly right. This is the first time I've done the Airbnb thing. Before it was long-term tenants.
Gotcha.
Right? So
that's, I think, where the confusion came. Okay.
Your logic would be correct if it was for long-term tenants, because they wouldn't cash flow if you're trying to buy A-class properties.
Right. Okay. I mean, Now, with that said, have you ever been worried as far as like with the recession coming, people aren't going to take as many vacations, or people aren't going to want to spend that kind of money on a vacation? You know, granted, you got in really good areas, Scottsdale and Malibu, right? These are places that people are going to want to go, and you can demand those kind of prices. But has that ever come up, or is it like,
No, I think about that constantly. Like we're law enforcement. We look at like what could go wrong all the time. You can't help it, right?
Yeah.
So in order to combat that, it doesn't mean I don't buy. It just means I'm going to put more money in reserves to weather the storm.
Right. Okay.
I just save more money than the average person does. I still live beneath my means. I live a very modest lifestyle.
Same.
Because if I do that, I feel more comfortable to take risks.
Damn.
Right. And at a certain point when I don't need to take risks anymore, I'll live a nicer lifestyle if that's what I want to do. But in the meantime, it's more important that I shut down that little drunk monkey in your brain that says, what if this happens? What if this happens? What if this happens? Put enough money in the bank, doesn't matter what happens.
Doesn't matter. You got plenty of reserves. So your transit, I guess. So when you first started, were you were doing the Burr method, right? You're procuring a bunch of properties, doing that, with the cash out refis and everything else like that. I'm assuming you probably had longer term tenants in there, like regular tenants. And then what made you say, you know what, man, I'm going to transition. I'm going to get into the Airbnb game, because that's kind of something where I dabbled with it a little bit. I got a tenant right now that's on the master's lease that's, Airbnb in it. And I'm doing the math in my head. I'm like, I know this guy's making a good amount of money on Airbnbs. You know, I've been reluctant on it because I'm like, it's riskier. People fuck up your property, whatever it may be. But with you got A properties, which I could see what you did there, because those people are less likely to fuck up your place and they're going to still be spending a lot of money. What made you make that transition? Like, you know what? I'm going to take the risk. I'm going to start doing Airbnbs.
The honest answer is I saw the softening in the market, and now's a chance to get into the best locations, the best areas. And the only way you make a cash flow is Airbnb.
Yeah.
That's not going to cash. It's too far off of the 1% rule to actually get a long-term tenant. So my only option was continue to buy basic properties where I don't know how much they'll be affected by a market crash, or take advantage and get the best deals I possibly can. But if I'm going to do that, I have to go short-term rentals.
Right.
So what I've done to sort of like offset it is I bought a lot of them in the Smoky Mountains, where I have a property manager that's going to take care of everything. It might as well be a long-term. I'm not going to have to deal with any of that. So I just bought 10 cabins out there, probably spent around like $12 million over those 10 cabins. They're like really nice stuff. Like,
holy shit. And those are going to be Airbnbs.
Yep. That's it. So people go visit in Tennessee. Like that whole area is very, very popular. But I didn't go buy the $500,000 cabin where there's a million of them, right? It was something very different and unique that would draw more people to this cabin. Okay. And then I bought more square footage and I put more beds in them. So you can maybe take 10, 15, 20 people on this trip. Now everybody only has to kick in $100. Right. So this is still affordable because they're big. If I try to buy a luxury property, but it's very small and only 4 people can stay there.
Yeah.
That's when you're exposed to what you're describing. Like what happens if people stop visiting.
What's the length of stay? I'm not sure if you know this, but the length of stay people will stay in your Airbnbs. Like, how long would they normally stay?
You know, usually it's like 3 to 6 days or so. But you every once in a while will get somebody stay for like a month and they'll pay you $15,000.
Because I saw an article where there's a bunch of young people that are making a lot of money and they just travel from place to place and stay at Airbnbs for like a long period of time, and then just move to the next city.
That's the trend I think is going to happen.
Yeah.
People can use the internet more. They don't have to work from an office space anymore. They're going to want to go to the best area. They're going to always be afraid to buy real estate. There's always the next fear of the next problem that's going to happen. They're not going to get involved. So they're going to want to rent. And so it's just taking advantage of that by you own the real estate. They pay you to stay there. As long as you keep enough money in reserves, like real estate will always do well.
It's a new way of being a nomad, basically a digital nomad. You just get on your computer, you go to a nice luxury spot you stay at. When you get bored of it, you move to the next city, do the same thing.
Yeah, no, I mean that's incredibly interesting that you. So, did you see basically like a weak point in the market right now with the fact that like, because let's be honest, a year ago, right? Like I got 7 properties last year, but man, it was a pain in the ass. I was losing deals to New Yorkers all over the place, paying cash, being assholes, and it was a very hot real estate market. So now that the market's dipped quite a bit, right, with interest rates going up, etc. The first thing that's going to take a hit a little bit are these A-class properties. So you're like, you know what? This is my ability to get in. Maybe a $2 million property, I'm able to snag it for maybe a 1.6, 1.5, 1.7, somewhere in that range. Is that what made you say this is the perfect time to strike? Because interest rates went up, less affordable, which means I'm competing with less people.
Yep. You always, or at least I always want to be going the opposite of where everyone else goes. The Warren Buffett. You want to be greedy when others are fearful when others are greedy.
Yeah.
So when rates go up, that means that the price of the payment is going to go up too. Most people get scared and they immediately think, let me buy the cheapest property I possibly can because it's going to have the lowest payment. But those are the ones that are most exposed to market corrections. If you look at the areas that got smashed in 2010, it wasn't Beverly Hills. It was going to be Detroit. right? If the lowest price stuff is what Stockton, California, Modesto, where I'm from, got hammered. The nicer areas, Walnut Creek, didn't really get touched.
Wow.
You also see that the more expensive a property is, the more sensitive that the monthly payment's going to be to interest rate hikes.
Yep.
So on a $300,000 house, rates could double. Your payment goes up a couple $100.
Yep.
Rates double on a $2 million house, that could be $6,000. It's a significant difference. At the same time, higher price point people don't have to buy real estate. No one has to buy a $2, $3, $4 million house. You probably got to buy something if you're buying in the $300,000 range.
Yeah.
So what I was looking to do is I'm trying to get into a market where other people are not going after those homes. They're sitting on the market a long time. People that are looking at, it depends what market you're in.
You can aggressively make an offer if it's been on the market for 30, 60 days. Hey, you're not selling this thing, man. It's fucking $2 million. I'll take it off your hands for 1.5.
That is exactly right. So one of them in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, listed at 1.5, sat for a long time. He drops it to 1.4, 1.3, 1.25. I go see it at 1.2. And this was the day that Jerome Powell came out and said, everybody shouldn't buy houses. So just stop buying, right?
Perfect.
Bitcoin crashed the same day, right? I watch the news a lot because I want to know what everybody else is hearing.
Yeah.
Right? Because most people, like, they're a flock of birds. Everyone's going that way. I should go that way too. So I wrote an offer on that house at $1,050,000.
Okay.
I asked for $30,000 closing cost credit. He's listed at 1.2. He comes back and he goes, I'll take it, but I don't want to pay the credit. And so normally I'd have been like, oh, heck yeah, I'll take that. But in this case, I didn't, just because I knew, like, there's no way this guy's dropped his house from 1.5. He's willing to take $1,050,000. He's not going to blow up a deal over $30,000.
Yep.
Sure enough, next day, we didn't even have to counter. He just came back and said, okay, I'll take the deal. Had the news not been what it was, hadn't been hearing everybody saying, oh, this guy is falling, everything's terrible, that house doesn't sell for less than the 1.5. But the seller's under all of this strain and fear and psychological torment. He's trying to move on with his life. He's thinking about, what am I going to do next? The house is sitting there for 70 days. You have a big opportunity. You don't get to do the same thing chasing after a $400,000 house that's been on the market for 6 days.
Wow. A great man once said, when I watch the news, I don't watch it for news. I watch it to decide what to do next. There you go.
Yeah, man.
That was you, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, that's fantastic, because, like, normally people would be scared to do a deal that big, right? But the fact that you're doing short-term rentals, Airbnb, etc., you're able to really leverage that property, make quite a bit of money on it. Whereas, like, with long-term rental, you never would. And, like, and I'll say this because you're obviously doing these bigger deals like me, right? I'm over here trying to buy a $400,000, $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 house, right? Or a duplex, triplex, whatever. Well, I'm competing with all the other retards.
That's the
right.
problem.
And I'm losing deals. And I was looking at a couple deals in Connecticut. I'll never forget, last year, I lost so many deals to cash buyers from New York, bro. It's ridiculous. But that's what happens when you buy at that level, where people can more people can kind of come in and invest. But when you go the higher up you go like that, when you're buying $1 million+ properties, there's not going to be much competition. So they're forced to give you a $30,000 credit.
That's exactly right.
And that's Twitch, by the way.
So what? Oh yeah. Go ahead. Kill Twitch.
Word,
yeah, whatever. Fuck it. Yeah, kill the Twitch stream and kill the Twitter stream. Come on over to YouTube, guys. Teaching you guys that. This is a great Money Monday, by the way, guys. We talked about crypto first. Now we're talking about real estate. So
2 things that could change your life, guys.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So Dave, real quick, market crash. Do you think it's coming? Not? What's your thoughts on that? I see some people going crazy. The market's gonna crash.
Okay.
The future of real estate.
Yes.
First thing I want to say, in general, almost every time there's controversy over something, no one bothers to define the terms they're arguing over.
Bam.
Have you guys notice this? It's becoming like a big thing in my life, where I'm taking a lot of heat for saying that the market's not going to crash. And they're like, well, no, he's buying all these houses. He was lying. It's like, no, this is not a crash. This is a correction.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
yep.
You have to understand supply and demand. A crash, I don't see coming. Now, that doesn't mean it can't happen.
I agree.
Right? China goes to war with Taiwan. That could change some things. Right. But from what we're seeing right now, there is not enough supply out there right now to allow a crash to happen. Okay. So what happens is, if prices start coming down before they hit crash levels, they become so affordable that Myron can buy a bunch of them. And I can buy a bunch of them. And then we're going to go raise money from other people we know that have money but don't know how to invest in real estate. We're going to buy all of them. It's like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. You're never going to push it all the way to the bottom. It's going to pop back up at some point. That doesn't mean prices can't come down, right? What I was talking about earlier is the houses I'm buying right now are in areas where I think are extra susceptible to coming down.
Yeah.
I think that when rates come back down at a certain point, those prices are going to go back up. And on some of these houses, I make $500,000 in equity pretty quick just from the rates coming down and the asset changing. So no, I don't think we have a crash. Yes, I think that we're having a correction, and I think we've needed this. It's not healthy that a house goes on the market and in 2 days has 10 offers and sells for $200,000 over asking.
Yes.
Thank God this is finally happening.
Yeah, fuck these sellers, dude. Like, I was pissed. Like, these sellers really had like some crazy gall. Like, oh no, you'd make an offer cash. Oh no, well I have another offer, $20,000 over cash. Fuck you, or they don't answer calls or whatever.
No appraisal. I used to say it's like being a girl in Alaska. She can have whatever she wants. Right? Like, that's how it's been in real estate. There's 10 buyers for every property.
Yeah, no, it was bad, dude. It was bad last year when I was like, I was getting in like bidding wars and all that. Then I realized like I'm not gonna fucking overpay for this thing. This is stupid. So, but no, I agree with you, man. We're 5.5 million homes short. I don't know why people keep saying that we're gonna have a market crash. They're fucking stupid. They don't understand the concept of supply and demand. So do you not buy starter homes anymore? You mentioned earlier that, you know, the 3.2s is what everyone is going after. Is that what you're not focused on those anymore right now?
I wouldn't say I wouldn't buy one, but I'm not targeting them. Right. Like
gotcha.
if it falls in front of me, I'm going to take it down. Right. But I'm not hunting for those right now.
Gotcha.
So let's say I'm an average viewer on the show. I'm an average Joe making, let's say, 40 to 60K a year. I want to get into real estate. I know you kind of answered it earlier, but like, what should my main method be to start getting into real estate?
It's called house hacking. You familiar with that phrase?
That's what I did.
House hacking is every single person here should do that. You should house hack one house every year. And before you do a burr, before you invest long distance, before you do anything else, that needs to be your second house that year. And here's why. You can get a primary residence loan for anywhere between 3.5% to 5%.
FHA.
Yeah. So you can actually buy a house if you're doing FHA loan or a conventional loan. Our company does them all the time. So you reach out to us, we get you pre-approved. You have $15,000, you can buy $300,000 house. Okay. Then you either look for a multifamily property or a property with an ADU. Or what I like to do
What's an ADU?
That would be the term that we use for accessory dwelling unit. You might call it like an in-law unit, a granny unit, a Hana unit. It's like an additional building on property. Yeah.
Okay.
So what I'm doing out here, I just bought a couple of properties in Fort Lauderdale. Well, there's not a lot of properties in that area that have 2-car garages. Some of them don't have garages at all. So what I'll do is I'll go look for that really nice house that's going to be a great vacation rental. Then I'll find one that has a 2-car garage. I will finish that and turn it into its own 1-bedroom or studio apartment that will rent individually from the other house.
Nice.
So it's maybe going to be $45,000 to convert that thing into its own unit. That will rent out as kind of like a budget option for someone that wants to come visit the beach and doesn't want to pay as much money. Then the main house where the backyard and everything else is included will rent out separately from that. And maybe I increase my revenue by like 30% by looking for something. Anyone can do that. If you're just a little creative, you put a little bit of elbow grease in a deal. You look for a house with a basement that isn't finished. Like I just put one under contract in Castro Valley, California. Very hard area to get into. Incredibly good school districts. This was something the last 5 years you just weren't going to get a house there. There was, as soon as it hit the market, someone was buying it right away. For cash and $300,000 over. Okay?
Wow.
Yeah, like really in demand.
Fuck?
So this specific house was only like 1,100 square feet, 1 bathroom. It sat there forever because the market cooled off and like it's not a suit. The floor plan was kind of messed up, but it's sitting on a raised foundation. Huge space. Like I'm gonna double the floor plan by just going in and finishing out that basement that's already there. So then when that house is done, I'm now going to have double the square footage.
Sheesh.
The after repair value is going to be much higher. I'm going to do a burr. I'm going to pull the money back out of it, reinvest that in the next deal. That'd have been a perfect house hack for somebody.
And is the house going to still, you think, cash flow or break even?
Oh, it's going to cash flow amazingly on that one.
Even after the cash out refi?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's 1 unit right now. I think I bought it for around $830,000. The basement will be a second unit that will be just as big as the main house. And then there's a sunroom in the back with another like workshop that I'm going to turn into a 3rd unit.
Bam. Number one, rumble.com/FreshandFit, guys. We are on Rumble. I know you guys are probably like, yo, what, Martin Fresh, why are y'all on Rumble? Well, content like this is not safe for YouTube a lot of the time. So, you got to be able to, say and do what you want to do over there on Rumble on the other side of the internet.